Hola alumnos, ahora vamos a estudiar cómo expresar los gustos y las preferencias con el verbo gustar. La información para esta lección está en la página 92 y la página 93. So when we're talking about the verb gustar, it's important to know that gustar means to be pleasing, specifically to be pleasing to someone. When we use the verb gustar, we can do so in two constructions. The first is gustar plus an infinitive, el infinitivo, or gustar plus a noun, un sustantivo. Notice on our lesson guide, under the part where we have gustar plus an infinitive, we have the example, a mi hermano le gusta comer. In Spanish, an infinitive is a verb before it is conjugated, before it's changed, and it ends with either AR, ER, or IR. In the sentence, our infinitive is comer. In the second example, we have a mi hermano le gusta el helado. El helado is a sustantivo, a noun. So we see the two different ways in which we can use gustar. Now that we know how it can be used, let's focus on each individual construction. The first construction that we're going to study is gustar más el infinitivo. When gustar is used with an infinitive, it is expressing the fact that an activity or an action is pleasing to someone. In this instance, we need to make sure that the indirect object pronoun that we use with the verb gustar matches the subject of the sentence and matches to whom that action or activity is pleasing. So let's take a look at some of our indirect object pronouns, los pronombres del complemento indirecto. If we want to say that something is pleasing to me, I will use the indirect object pronoun me. To say that it is pleasing to you, as if I were talking to a friend or a peer, a child, or even a pet, we would use the indirect object pronoun te. To say that something is pleasing to him, to her, or to you formal, we are going to use the indirect object pronoun le. To say that something is pleasing to us, we will use the indirect object pronoun nos. If we were in Spain primarily, or certain parts of Latin America, and we wanted to say that something is pleasing to you all, and the you all to whom we are referring is a group of peers, we would use the indirect object pronoun os. And finally, if we wanted to say that something is pleasing to a group of persons and we're saying it's pleasing to them, or if we were saying it's pleasing to you all and we were primarily in Latin America, we would use the indirect object pronoun les. So to review, the indirect object pronouns, los complementos del objeto indirecto, son me, te, le, nos, os, les. Muy bien. When we are using gustar plus an infinitive, we are going to use the indirect object pronoun, one of the 6 that we just reviewed, the verb gustar. Notice that the verb gustar in this instance will be conjugated as if it were in the third person singular, gusta. So we're going to use the indirect object pronoun, gusta, followed by the infinitive. Now let's review the second construction, gustar más un sustantivo, gustar plus a noun. When gustar is used with a noun, it must agree in number with that noun. And when we say it must agree in number, we're talking about whether or not it's singular o plural. Tiene que tener concordancia con el sustantivo, has to have agreement. Tenemos dos ejemplos. El primer ejemplo dice, Me gusta Coca-Cola con cereza. I like cherry Coke. In this sentence, we have a noun following the verb gustar. The noun is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola es un sustantivo singular. Por eso vamos a decir me gusta Coca-Cola. Since the noun is singular, the verb gustar will be conjugated as if it were in the third person singular form. Me gusta Coca-Cola. Ok, pues ahora vamos a ver el segundo ejemplo. Me gustan las cerezas. En este ejemplo, las cerezas es la palabra que es el sujeto, ¿ok? Pues es un sustantivo plural. This noun is plural. For that reason, we are going to use the conjugation of the verb gustar as if it were in the third person plural form. Gustan. Me gustan las cerezas. The noun's plural, usamos gustan. Si el sustantivo es singular, usamos gusta. Muy bien. So, to sum it up once again, if it's singular, you must use the singular form of gustar, which is gusta. And if it's plural, we're going to use the plural form of gustar, which is gustan. Now, if we want to clarify or we want to emphasize to whom something is pleasing, we are going to use the preposition a, followed by the subject's name or a pronoun. So in our first example, when we are talking about the subject's name, if we're using the subject's name, we have a Jasmine no le gustan los cruceros. Notice that we are using the preposition a, la preposición a, followed by the name of the person. Then we are using our indirect object pronoun le and the appropriate conjugation of the verb gustar, which is gustan, since los cruceros, it is a plural noun. In the next example, en el segundo ejemplo, tenemos a mi mamá y a mi papá les gusta nadar en el mar. In this example, although we're not using a person's name, we're using a pronoun for that person, my mom or my dad. Since we are saying that something is pleasing to more than one person, you are going to use the preposition a each time. So, a mi mamá y a mi papá les gusta nadar en el mar. We're using les because we're saying something is pleasing to more than one person. And we are using the conjugation of the verb gustar. We're using gusta because it's followed by the infinitive nadar. So be sure to go back and review the appropriate usage of the verb gustar. And until next time, nos vemos.